We would like to invite you to a series of webinars related to the new version of ArCADia BIM 14. On the screen, you can see the topic of today's meeting. We will start with a discussion of the general principles of designing in ArCADia, then we'll move on to the installations of the program and its additional content, as well as the newly introduced network licenses. Later on, we'll go to the selection of templates and available options in the program menu. Thereafter, we will discuss the program interface with regard to the toolbar ribbons, the heart and mind of the program, which is the project manager, palettes, Smart 10, and a new dynamic data entry window. Finally, we will discuss the various industry modules available in the ArCADia BIM system. We will of course start with what ArCADia is and what its versions are. ArCADia is mainly recommended by us for the design of buildings, internal installations, external networks, as well as escape routes or lightning protection, this sort of BIM design. We have three versions of the ArCADia programs, the LT version, which we can now see on the screen, ArCADia and ArCADia Plus. What are the differences between these three versions? Well, first of all, a little bit of the interface, what the program looks like. At the first launch of the program, there are various messages with questions and dialog boxes. I'll discuss them in a moment. Now, what is the difference between ArCADia LT, ArCADia, and ArCADia Plus? If we were to use purely CAD options, such as, for example, drawing with lines, circles, texts, then these are only flat files. It is impossible to create three-dimensional projects here. If we are talking about a model created in the ArCADia system, made of walls, pipes, cables, or such elements as you can see here in the 3D view, then this model will be created in 3D. However, to create this 2D drawing, which will represent these heights, all of them will, depending on the available module, create cross-sections, maybe axonometries, or for example, water supply or heating installations, developing profiles such as additional views, while everyone who will work on ArCADia will see the model three-dimensional. How to work in ArCADia LT? Well, it's really quite simple. We only have one drawing sheet here. When we introduce anything, for example, when we choose to draw walls, please note at the bottom here, we have this area, a type of command bar, in which we can enter coordinates or lengths and angles, for example, for walls. We will move to a different way of inserting walls. We also have an insertion window, which is exactly the same in ArCADia LT, ArCADia, and ArCADia Plus. But what are the differences between these versions is, amongst other things, the way of inserting elements, because in ArCADia LT, we use this bottom bar. So now, to enter, for example, the length of our wall, we have to switch at the bottom to the value. We show the direction, let's say 500 centimeters. ArCADia draws in centimeters by default, so remember about that. The default drawing unit is a centimeter. Clicking the right mouse button obviously lets you leave the option. The options are available here, toggling on and off in the status bar, just like elsewhere. We can only change the background color, the layout color, that is the color of the ribbons we have here. We have the option to turn off the ribbons if we do not need them. However, we will not be able to turn off the layout of their individual options. There is no layer support here. It is not possible to add your own applications. Such things are only and exclusively in ArCADia and ArCADia Plus. For example, what is printed in ArCADia LT is placed on this sheet, which is here on the Home Tool ribbon. If we turn off this sheet, it will not be visible. But if we want to print something other than what is now selected, then we simply move this sheet. There's only one sheet, and only in its properties can we define both the format of this sheet and the scale. So what is to be printed just has to fit in this sheet, which we simply move to particular drawings. This is the main difference between ArCADia LT and the other two versions of the program. Now we're going to move on to ArCADia Plus. The only difference between ArCADia Plus and ArCADia is that in ArCADia Plus, there are options to draw with ACES solids. Modeling these solids, that is three-dimensional modeling of elements by adding, cutting, extruding them, that is more malleable creation of elements that can later, for example, be saved by an architect to the library of 3D objects and used in project design. Here I'm using the same project to show that regardless of what we draw with, ArCADia LT, ArCADia, or ArCADia Plus, we draw with the same elements of the ArCADia system and have the same options. I will show you a slightly different method on ArCADia or ArCADia Plus and how you can easily do this in all versions. When it comes to the ArCADia BIM system, in ArCADia and ArCADia Plus, we also have an additional view, a CAD 3D view. That is a view in which we can show the entire structure of the building in this drawing area, not only in the additional 3D view. This means that if we use this CAD 3D view, and we have such a project as a DWG file, then of course someone who does not have ArCADia but has a different CAD will be able to see our entire body of the building without having to break down into sections and other views to see what this model looks like. Thus, there's the main difference between ArCADia LT and ArCADia Plus when it comes to the ArCADia BIM system. Now, when it comes to the graphic module itself, there is a big difference. First, ArCADia and ArCADia Plus have all kinds of layer support, that is CAD elements that allow us to sort our project and set certain elements on layers. Thanks to this, we can block or unblock them. We can read Lisp applications, we can read XREFs. We can define commands by typing them, creating our own aliases and shortcuts. We can change the interface not only in terms of colors, backgrounds, and the appearance of toolbars. Here we have the option of both using toolbars because we can switch to the classic view. We can of course stay in this ribbon system, but we can leave one ribbon and define it ourselves. So here, setting the program to your own needs is quite extensive. We also have the option, if someone has a fairly wide monitor and not a tall one, that is a panoramic one, to find all the tools on palettes, which we can also define ourselves, and by using the palettes, roll up these ribbons on top so that we have more space. And as I mentioned, when it comes to the command bar, we can enter English commands with an underscore, aliases, shortcuts. We can define everything with such a customization window. Additionally, in ArCADia, when it comes to printing itself, we draw in the model, but we can print both in the model and in the layout. These layouts may be of any number. Each may be of a different size and scale. So it is the printing support that differs significantly between ArCADia BIM LT and ArCADia BIM and ArCADia BIM Plus. Now let's move on to the next issue. When you install the program, whether it's ArCADia BIM LT, ArCADia BIM or ArCADia BIM Plus, you'll have 28 days for which the program will work. And you will have the possibility of saving and printing. And when it comes to drawing, for example, any installation or architectural design, all options will last 28 days. Some advertisements will be shown during that time, but all options will work for you. So you can print and save while testing the program. And here, on this bar, you'll have information on how many days of the trial version you have left for testing. Within those 28 days, or after this period, if you purchase the program, you'll get the license sent to you by email, and you'll need to upload it. In addition to the program, which is usually also downloaded from the internet, you must download from the website arcadiabimsystem.com the license manager, which is located here in ArCADia Tools. Once you have installed and started the license manager, the license you receive in the mail must be installed. And here, with this button, select the file you need to load into the program. When you load the license, only after starting the program, after you have installed it, you'll be able to say that the program is licensed. Now, this is quite important. For this license to function properly, it must have internet access. When you start the program, internet access must be available. If it is not, you'll receive information that there is no internet access. If these 28 days have passed from the program's first installation, then you just need to close the program. If there was no internet, connect to the network and start it again. Otherwise, you will not have the full functionality of the program, for example, the option to save, so please pay attention to this. To check if you have access to the internet in a given session, you can always go to the Manage ribbon. This is something like the Network License Manager. Then a window will open for us, and here we have information on the right, whether we have a license or not, if it is downloaded from the network. If we have red markers here, and this icon is pointing to the left, it will mean that we do not have access to the internet. If we have a tendency that we work without internet access because we simply do not want to connect to the computer, to the internet, or sometimes it could be that we move from place to place and the laptop does not always connect to the network, then it would be a very good idea to download the offline license. And this is done in such a way that you just click here to download from the server, of course connect to the network temporarily. We download this license online and then upload it. I will not download it now, but if we downloaded it, we can install it immediately. And then another window will appear that will activate this license for us offline. And then we do not need to have access to the internet every time we start the program, as there will be no problem with accessing the license. If you have several people working on the same license, for example in the office, and you have one license, then when one person is using it, in order for another person to be able to connect, just turn off the program and the license is automatically returned to the server, and the other person can easily start using the license on another computer. You simply turn the program on and the license is automatically loaded. You do not have to exchange anything here, any files. You just move and turn the program off on one computer and then turn it on another one. Please remember that when working on online licenses, the offline license cannot be downloaded, because then you must return it to the server so that someone else can work on another computer. When you launch the program for the first time, you have information, of course, about updates, whether to download them or not. I always suggest that you should have access to the latest updates. If we make any corrections to the program, we simply place the program for download. It would be a good idea to always have the latest version, I think, as you probably don't visit our website that often to check for updates. So it would be a good idea then to have these automatic updates turned on so that you would be up to date with any corrections that we may implement. Another window that appears at startup, before this window appears, a template window pops up, but I will talk about it in a moment, although it doesn't force us to select something. This is a window in which we define what our ribbons will look like, how many there will be, and how many options we will have available. If someone wants to get acquainted with the program, I suggest choosing the first option, which is the full ArCADia BIM system, to see all the options available in the program. On the other hand, if someone will work later and they know, for example, that the escape route option will not be needed because he will not be only using it, but will also be using other programs such as water supply installations, then you can choose a water supply system scheme, which means that all other ribbons will be hidden, except for architecture and the ribbons for water and sewage. And certainly these additional options like insert, description, and add-ins. If you start working with a program and you do not know exactly what else you want to use, this template window allows you to start with one of the selected templates here. For example, the professional architect or beginner architect. Or if you are the industry professional, for example, in heating, you choose the template meant for you. But back to the window that will appear immediately after this selection, which is the Additional Content Manager window. From version 14, the program setup looks a bit different because this setup gets bigger every time the version grows. It is already quite big, so it needed to be divided a bit. The libraries that appear in this window are available in the standard version for each user. Each user can download them absolutely free of charge because they are part of the program. They are only additionally downloaded. Not everyone needs them at the same time, of course. If, for example, someone designing telecommunications or, for example, external sewage networks, they do not need the interior furnishings library. And indeed, these libraries, as you can see, have a capacity and can be downloading for quite a while. That's why we divided it all up a bit. And when you're running the program for the first time, this window appears. If you click here at the bottom, Remind Me Later, then the next time you start the program, the window will appear again. If you just press Close, then the libraries will not be downloaded. If you choose some libraries and choose Apply, then the program will ask you if we want them to be installed now. ArCADia will shut down. The setup of these libraries will start and ArCADia should restart at the end. If you do not install these libraries, you will have icons and exclamation marks in surfaces and in the library that suggest that something is wrong here. And when you open one of these examples, because let me remind you that some sample projects are added to the program so that you will know what the program can do. You can get to them very easily here On the top left, click on this letter A, open the examples, and the program shows you a catalog with all the samples for each industry. If you do not download the libraries, here it will be the way that you will see it, that there are objects, there will be cubes and textures on the wall. For example, the colors of some facings will be white surfaces. And this is what it would look like if all the plugin libraries were downloaded. Therefore, please pay attention if you have such a view in your project, for example, that those ones you opened from the version 12, it will probably mean that you have forgotten or postponed the installation of additional content libraries. If you just clicked close and ignore the libraries without downloading, you'll always be able to come back to it, however. To get back to it, you can go to the Manage ribbon and the Additional Content Manager or the Surfaces library. The options can always be found on the Insert option in the Object Explorer window. Now I will come back to the window with templates, among other things, to show you what is in the basic version, because as I mentioned before, ArCADia is for building design, installations, and of course for external networks. It is created in such a way that, first of all, you have this graphic module with one of the base modules, ArCADia, ArCADia LT, or ArCADia Plus. Furthermore, you have this ArCADia BIM system, which every user has when buying the program. And in addition, everyone can choose the appropriate add-on module that he'll need for work. And now we will have a look at the base module. What is from ArCADia BIM? I will mark this template here. It is the ArCADia BIM license only. This is what every user who has ArCADia, ArCADia LT, or ArCADia Plus will have, because these ArCADia system options will be exactly the same. Here, when it comes to CAD drawing options in ArCADia or ArCADia Plus, it will be three-dimensional, so it will be a bit more. However, those system options which are on these tabs, architecture to terrain, will be exactly the same for everyone, regardless of the version on which they work. So when it comes to architecture, you can see a bit of a change. Here we have the option to draw a building, that is to insert walls, windows, doors, introduce the ceiling, stairs, create next levels, of course create a roof, and make simple lists such as woodwork or rooms. It is the same for other modules in the base module option. We can draw the electrical installations, we can also make basic lists, water installations, and exactly in the same way we can draw not only the flat drawing, but also the entire model. It will be the same with internal sewage, gas, heating, and ventilation installations. All these options are available in the base version. This means each user will have them. He will also be able to create a terrain model here to embed this building. ArCADia and ArCADia Plus have a few more drawing options for attaching additional elements. So here we have some more options for drawing and describing our elements. It is also all in the base version. If someone wants to expand the scope, he will need an additional industry module. That is, for example, in architecture. As you can see here on the ribbon, there are many more options because there is also a connection with ArCADiorama. This is with a structural program with ArCADia modules like reinforced concrete slab, where the ceiling in a building can be transferred to the module, where you can draw the reinforcement in the slab. We have the option to introduce, as I've already mentioned before, the cross sections. We have the option of calculating the insulation in rooms, or for example, making the shading visualization as a film or as individual frames, or in a combination as you can see here, or on a map, for example. As for the other industry modules, when compared to what is in the base version, of course we have calculation options and additional views here, such as those that we call axonometry, expansions, and developments here. We can see calculation windows. When it comes to gas installations, we also have expansions, lists, including the fact that we also have the option of showing the coordinates of those elements in gas installations that are introduced outside the building. It is the same in the sewage installations, also in this add-on module. There is the rest of the pipe developments and of course the calculations. So in these add-on industry modules, there are mainly elements for calculations and additional views that are not available in the base module. Here are two more screenshots of the construction modules. This is the reinforced concrete component module, in which you can define various construction elements and create drawings from them. A reinforced concrete slab, a reinforced concrete column. So these additional modules, this is what I mean by them. There is also landscape architecture, which you can see on the ribbon, that has additional options, with which you can arrange the landscape around the building, as well as, for example, a park or a square. Heating installations also have additional options, such as calculations. Ventilation installations have the possibility of making a cross-section where you can see all the elements, not only on the projection, but also on the views, as in cross-sections. Water supply installations have axonometry and calculations. All these elements, all these additional options are included in the industry modules. I already showed this in ArCADia LT, so to end, I will show you how to introduce elements on the example of ArCADia Plus, and this will be more or less the scope of today's webinar. When it comes to ArCADia and ArCADia Plus, the input is a bit different than in ArCADia LT. We can use this command area, but as you can see, you also have the additional window next to the cursor, in which you can enter, for example, lengths and angles or coordinates when you start drawing. You can't turn on ortho, of course, the same as in ArCADia LT. And now you can either simply enter the length, or using the down arrow key on the keyboard, you can select additional options that you'll have available in this version. As you can see here in the command area, you can either click on them or type a capital letter, or simply choose the angle length here, for example, when entering from this list by clicking on it, or using the arrow. Moving with the arrow and the enter key, so here it will be a bit similar to ArCADia LT. But there is no lower window here, but just the command area, where we can enter commands, keyboard shortcuts, aliases, and these type of commands. An insert window like the one here is of course available in all options of ArCADia, namely ArCADia LT, ArCADia BIM, and ArCADia Plus. I have not yet mentioned a very important part of the program, which will be discussed at a future webinar, but today I will only mention the fact that the most important part of our program is the ArCADia system, and this is the project manager. It manages our project. It manages all the views, as you can see here on the right. All views that are in the program, you can switch between the views. You can see the cross-section, 3D view, 3D CAD view, that was shown here. So the project manager is used to switch between views, create these views, but also, as you can see here, to manage what is visible. So I can, for example, turn off the walls here. Some of them are obviously visible in the CAD 3D view, so some things are left here, of course. But I can still see that there are hatchings that have disappeared. So these elements have been turned off from the view. So the project manager window is a very important item that you'll have to be careful about in each project and while using it, because here is also where you add buildings, set them, copy them. Here you rotate them, as well as add levels. All of this we'll discuss at a future webinar. Here is some information about the 3D view that you should have. It can be turned on all the time when working with a program, or of course turned on when you need it. Because remember that if you have this version of ArCADia or ArCADia Plus, you can always work simply in this view, and this 3D view does not have to be turned on. You have a 3D view in two modes. It can be a simplified mode, where you cannot see shadows, for example in installations. It is more advisable to make smaller, finer elements more visible. So you have the option to switch it here. The project manager is very important here. I encourage you to participate in another webinar where we will discuss it in greater detail. It is the heart of the ArCADia system. Okay, I think that's it for today. I hope you're all still here and have followed what I tried to communicate to you, and I hope we'll see you next time. Take care. And for those of you who may have some questions, please feel free to say something, or I should say type something in now, and we will try to answer them accordingly. Okay, thanks for your question, Sandeep. Although I would like to keep the questions here specifically to what we discuss in this webinar. But as you know, we use the EU norms, and those we are looking at ways of modifying certain things, but we're not adding into ArCADia the norms specific to India. There are similarities because the EU norms are very similar to the ones used in many of the countries, but we are looking at options of modifying this in the future. Let's see what else is here. Hi, Alvaro. It's not possible to work on a project simultaneously in real time, but it is possible to use various of the functions we have, such as merging documents. After you've checked, for example, the collisions in two different projects, you can merge them together, which allows you to create a new document, which can then be sent to somebody else, who then adds their own industry, say gas, and somebody else adds water, somebody else adds something else. And these two can be merged together. You can also, merge and check for collisions would be the main ones. Hi, Arthur. Good to see that you're here also. The differences were shown in the user interface. Do you have anything more specific than that? Regarding Windows 11, we still recommend using Windows 10, because there are some issues that need to be configured in Windows, but we're working on that, and we'll send you the updated information on how it best works together and what needs to be configured. Hi, Arthur, again. As I see you're asking about doing a project from scratch, we've actually got those videos on YouTube that you're more than welcome to go through, because it does show all the various stages and the things that need to be done to design it. I don't know if going on a webinar would be the appropriate way of doing so much information in one go. We do have a set of webinars planned in which we'll be discussing various things, not too much information in one go. We'll be doing a webinar on the project manager, how best to use it. We'll be doing things on showing how various of the functions can be used. So I think if you go and sit with us through most of them, you'll have a better idea on how to use the program to its best effect. What else do we have here? I think you're, Arthur, again talking about the LT version, which does not have a command line. That is one of the main differences within between the programs, which we had shown earlier in the beginning of this webinar. What else do we have here? Okay, we'll maybe do another video specific to using the offline license, because we've had a couple of questions about that. So that is a good idea, Sandeep. Thank you. Okay, is there anything else? The main, Alvaro, way of sharing documentation between various software is the IFC import, which seems to be the standard, and it's best suited to transfer all this information. I mean, we do have the other options of showing somebody through the making a project package and sending it and looking at the 3D viewer, where you can see the whole structure and the whole solid of the building, but that would be only for viewing the actual solid. The IFC specifically is the best system suited for this. And Arthur, we want you to be comfortable, yes. The merging option, Sandeep, is specific to ArCADia, as it recognizes what is in each project. If we use ArCADia objects with a different system, they don't speak to each other in a way, so they won't recognize each other. So it is between ArCADia drawings. Arthur, you can configure your own menus and customize them in practically any way that you want to. This has been built into the ribbon system that we use. In ArCADia BIM and ArCADia Plus, of course, not the ArCADia LT. With Revit, we collaborate using IFC, and we also have the Revit underlay export and import. But we totally suggest that you use the IFC, as it's working much better. We are part of the ODA, which is the group which is translating the Revit and Autodesk symbols and structures and drawings so that they can be understood by other programs. They are compiling new libraries, which we update all the time. And the aim is that within some time in the future, I can't even specify if it's a year or longer, the idea is that we want to be able to bring into the project other objects from Revit and actually be able to edit them. But that's a long way in the future. Regarding the visualizations, the OBJ is what we recommend the most as the best way of actually exporting things. Alvaro, thanks for your question. This is something we'll be showing in an upcoming webinar. I'd like to really keep these specific to what we cover specifically in each session. This way we can sort of go through it much easier. If you see on the beginning of that page, we had information about what we're going to talk about. So in this one, we specifically wanted to talk about the program, the installations, how the demo and network licenses work, the menu, and the information about options which are available in ArCADia. In regards to SketchUp, ArCADia can read the DAE files, and after loading them, you can save them to the object library, and then you can have them usable for whatever function that you need. That was for Arthur, I think. Let me just go through here. Oh, DN. We'll send you links again, maybe even next week for our next webinar we'll conduct, and thereafter for the future ones. And our aim is to go through all of these things that you have just, some of you asked about, you know, the merging, using the network license better, and so forth. Arthur, we are ArCADia, and we want to be not similar to Revit because we actually think that we have an equal amount of functionality to offer as Revit. We have a different market that we're aimed at, but I think we do not want to be like Revit or a clone of Revit. I think we want to promote our own solution as much as we can. We'll go through all the questions again, and in case I've missed something, we'll email it maybe to the person who asked it and try to respond it in the future if it's something that we've missed. Alvaro, I'll talk about Revit-related things maybe in a future one also. We don't have families like Revit does. We have groups of objects that we use. So in a way it's similar, but in a way it's totally different. So yeah, that's a different way of approaching the problem. Arthur, regarding the customization, I think I'll get Dominica to actually help you out with this because it's something that Mr. Sure she'll be able to explain to you much better on a one-to-one basis. Regarding working simultaneously on the same model, it's, as I've said, that you have to use this you can best do it by utilizing the merge options, which allow different people to do various parts of the document. If you have two people working, say on architecture, you can then use the compare function to see what has been changed, and you can then, merge those things, which gives you better visibility of what's been changed. So, I mean, there are ways of getting around the online simultaneous working. I mean, there are benefits of not doing it online simultaneously, as if somebody makes a mistake, it affects everybody immediately. This way you can actually do it in a more controlled fashion. Regarding the point cloud, can you suggest which one you need, and then we'll see if we can do something about it. And that's for Vlastimil. No, exactly, Arthur. The whole point is to make it logical and intuitive so that the person that is using the program for the first time will not get scared of trying to go further and put off by something that is too difficult to understand. If you'll notice, this is why we've actually got various templates within the program which allow you to set the ribbons and options to a different level of what you need, so it's not cluttered with everything in one. If you notice, we have the beginner architect, installer of water, and so forth, and it specifies what they actually need. So I think from this point of view, we should be going in the right direction. But you're right, we don't want people to be uncomfortable with what they see, because that just puts them off, doesn't it? Okay, that looks like that's about it, I think. Thank you very much again. We'll post this on the internet so that clients will be able to have a look at this also. So thank you very much for joining us. For some of you, it's good morning. For others, it's good evening. For us, it's midday. So thanks very much again, and we'll see you on the next one.